Welcome back to a brand new video on the channel, guys. So what I have for you guys today is going to be my Championship Week 20 score predictions, and I don't know what you guys think, but to me it does feel like quite a while now since we did last have some Championship action. So I'm glad that it is coming back this weekend, guys, and really we have a big weekend coming up in the Championship, and I am very excited to go ahead and get into some of my score predictions in today's video, guys. So if you've not seen this series before, let me quickly explain how it all goes down. So every weekend I give you guys my Championship score predictions for what I think the results will be with each game going on in the Championship. FIFA 18 also makes their score predictions, but what I'm of course interested to know is what you guys have to say. So in the description down below I'll leave all the fixtures that are taking place this weekend, and then you guys can easily go ahead and make your score predictions. But we do have some massive games coming up this weekend, and without further ado, let's jump into some of them. So we do start out with the game going on tonight, guys, on Friday night, and it is probably the biggest game going on this weekend. We have the Steel City Derby going on between Sheffield United and Sheffield Wednesday, and this does have the potential to go ahead and actually be a really exciting game of football, of course. Sheffield Wednesday, of course, with a new manager now, this will be the first game he's in charge, and I'm not gonna lie, he's not walking into the best of circumstances at Sheffield Wednesday with the position Carlos left them in. Squad morale can't be all too high at the moment, and confidence in general, but hopefully with a new manager coming in, he'll be able to lift that and get that instant push from his players, which he's looking for. As well as that though, Sheffield Wednesday do have quite a considerable injury list at the moment, which isn't going to help them for a game of this magnitude, of course. If you do cast your mind back to earlier in the season, when this game did go on last time, when Sheffield Wednesday were the home side, Sheffield United really did turn up for that one, and they were the convincing winners in that one. So Chris Wilder knows what it takes to go ahead and get a victory against this Wednesday side, and with Wednesday having a massive injury list, I feel like it may be the same again. So I'm gonna go for a 2-1 home victory for Sheffield United. I'm interested to know what you guys think will happen in this one, because will Sheffield Wednesday's new manager get an instant reaction? I'm not so sure. FIFA saying it'll be 2-0 Wednesday. Now we will move on into the Saturday games, the first of which being Cardiff, who are going up against Sunderland, and this is a pretty big game actually for both sides at the moment, of course. With Sunderland currently sat bottom of the Championship, they need to be picking up points wherever they can now, really, from now till the end of the season if they are going to avoid relegation. And to be honest, this is a pretty good opportunity for them to go ahead and do so. Cardiff at the moment are probably in one of the worst runs in the Championship. They've lost their last 4 consecutive matches, and they need to put an end to this run of form as soon as possible, of course. The current squad they've got has been, pretty hampered with injuries this season, but even so, the standards that they set for themselves earlier on in the season, they're not currently living up to them, and so realistically, I don't see all too many goals being scored in this game here today. Sunderland are a real mixed bag this season. You never really know what you're going to get from them, but for this one, I am just going to fancy Cardiff to go ahead and get back to winning ways with a slim 1-0 home victory over Sunderland. For this one, FIFA saying it'll be a 0-0. Then the next game sees Barnsley go up against Wolves, and once again quite an interesting encounter actually to go ahead and talk over. Before Barnsley's last game, they were under a pretty bad run of form, but they finally managed to put an end to that last time out with that 1-0 away victory over Sunderland. Can they capitalise on that and make it 2 wins out of 2 in the Championship? I'm not sure. This Wolves side at the moment is a very hard proposition to go ahead and look past, and one thing that doesn't really get all too much mention with Wolves this season is just how good they have been defensively as well. They get a lot of plaudits for how they've gone forward this season, and rightly so. They have been excellent most of the time going forward this season, but defensively, I believe they've only conceded 20 goals so far this season. When you consider we're already into January, that's a remarkable turnaround from them so fast, and with how wasteful Barnsley have been going forward lately, I'm not sure if they'll be able to penetrate that Wolves defence. So for this game, I'm going to go ahead and back a 2-0 away victory for Wolves, whereas FIFA's saying this one will be 1-0 Barnsley. Then the next game sees Derby County go up against Birmingham City, and once again a really interesting encounter actually, of course. This will be Gary Rowett going back to Birmingham, and I'm sure that he'll have a bit of a trick up his sleeve for this one. He's not going to want to go back to there and be getting beat, that's for sure, of course. With Derby currently sat second in the Championship, and on the whole on a very good run of form lately. Their forward players really do seem to be on song at the moment, and that Birmingham defence is really going to have to be on their top game for this. But what's probably most interesting, of course, Birmingham being one of the lowest scoring teams in the Championship so far this season, going up against that Derby defence, who has been one of the best, I'm not sure if Birmingham are going to be able to find a way past them in this one. But to be fair to Birmingham, they have gone ahead and won their last 2 games, so maybe that's something to read into and something they can take into this game as well. But even so, I just feel like this Derby side is going to have too much for them. So I'm going to go for a 2-0 away victory for Derby, whereas FIFA same, it'll be a 0-0. Then the next fixture sees Brentford go up against Bolton Wanderers, and Brentford of course will be wanting to bounce back. Their last outing in the Championship they did lose after they went under a pretty decent run of form before that loss last time out. Coming up against this Bolton side, who then themselves actually have been putting in some very decent performances lately. They're currently sitting on the back of 2 consecutive victories, and at the moment Gary Medine is in a brilliant run of form for Bolton. He seems to be scoring with every touch he's having at the moment, and I'd be interested to hear from some Bolton fans as to what do you make of the speculation currently linking Gary Medine away from the club. You know, surely for Bolton's season they have to be keeping hold of him until the end of the season if they are going to have any chances of survival. But for this one, I feel like if Brentford's attack really is on song for this one, they may have a little bit too much for Bolton. Bolton are a side who can catch you out if you're not playing to your full potential, but I feel like Brentford will be on it for this one, and it's nice to see Alan Judge back for them as well, back in and around the squad. But for this one, I am going to go for a 3-1 home victory for Brentford. Maybe that's a bit harsh on Bolton, but FIFA's going to say it'll be 1-0 Bolton. Then our next game sees Bristol City go up against Norwich City, and quite interestingly actually, Norwich are actually in a better run of form at the moment in the Championship than Bristol City are. Currently Norwich are unbeaten in their last 3 games in the league, and Bristol City have actually lost their last 2, you know. There were quite a few accusations being thrown at Bristol City, you know, that the wheels have come off, you know. If you look at their last performance in the Championship, that was a 5-0 defeat at the hands of Aston Villa. So you could see a lot of people that thinking that Bristol City were starting to crumble, but in credit to Bristol City, I thought that that game against Man City in midweek, even though they did lose that quite late on, I thought they did play quite well in that one. And so for this one, I feel like their mentality still needs to be on the league this season. You know, of course, they've done ever so well to keep themselves in the late stages of the Carabao Cup, but the league needs to be their main focus this season. I feel like this is a game which they will be turning their main focuses to once again. So for this one, I am just about going to go for a 2-1 home victory for Bristol City. You know, on their day they can run rampant going forward, but I've been quite impressed with how Norwich have been defending lately, and so I don't feel like there'll be all too much in it. But I am just about going to go for a 2-1 Bristol City, whereas FIFA's saying it'll be 1-0 Norwich. Now next game sees Burton Albion go up against Queen's Park Rangers, and so of course with Burton Albion currently sat in the relegation zone, they'll be hoping to get something from this game. But despite them currently being sat in the relegation zone, their recent form actually has been quite good. They've actually won 3 of their last 5 games in the Championship, and overall have been putting in some very good performances lately. Coming up against this QPR side, who have been very hit and miss so far this season. One week we've seen them play some teams off the park, and other times the mentality of the club just doesn't seem to be right. So you never really know what you're going to get with QPR, and for this one, I have a feeling this one could be heading towards a draw actually. So for this one, I'm going to go ahead and predict it to be a 1-1 draw, whereas FIFA's saying it'll be a 0-0. Our next matchup then sees Hull go up against Reading, and come the end of the season, this game could have huge implications on the bottom of the Championship. In my opinion, both of these clubs have the real possibility to go ahead and be relegated come the end of the season. I think Hull are only 4 points behind Reading, and Hull are currently only above the relegation zone on goal difference. And of course, both of them in a really wretched run of form at the moment. 3 points for either of them would be hugely beneficial, and I don't really think a point would suit either of them. So for that reason, I do anticipate it to be quite a cagey match where goal scoring has seemed to be a problem for both of these in recent weeks especially. I think they need to be doing a bit more movement in this transfer window. But in terms of a prediction, I'm just going to fancy Hull to go ahead and snatch it with a slim 1-0 home victory, whereas FIFA's saying it'll be 2-0 Hull. Then our next game does see Ipswich Town go up against Leeds United, and of course the big news going around Leeds at the moment is that Saïss will actually miss the next 6 games for Leeds through suspension. So Leeds fans, how much of a miss do you think that Saïss will actually be for you? In my opinion, he is an integral part of that Leeds side, and we could see Leeds lose a bit of ground on the playoffs in these next 6 matches if they aren't able to adapt well enough without Saïss. And of course, come up against Ipswich, who aren't in a brilliant run of form at the moment. I believe they've not won a game in their last 4 or so games in the Championship, if I remember correctly. So it's a good opportunity for Leeds to go ahead and carry on and cement this place in the playoffs. But with Ipswich and how they like to play, I think they'll cause Leeds all sorts of problems from set pieces, where the Leeds defence seems to have been a little bit suspect so far this season. So in my opinion, this one is heading towards a draw. I'm going to go for a 2-2 draw at the end of this one, whereas FIFA saying it'll be a 0-0. Then our next matchup does see Middlesbrough go up against Fulham, and this could actually be a really good game of football actually, as both teams are seemingly in a decent run of form at the moment. Tony Pulis seems to have found a formula that's working for him at the moment with Middlesbrough, of course. I think he's been in charge for 3 games now and managed to go ahead and win 2 of them, but he's going up against this Fulham side who won't be any easy customers. Currently Fulham are only 4 points off the playoffs, and so when you take into consideration they had a pretty mediocre start to the season, they have done well to sort of claw back some ground on the teams at the top, and they are building a nice project at the moment at Fulham. You know, Kamara's been in a great run of form for them, but Tony Pulis is that one game sort of manager who does know how to go ahead and grind out a result, and I feel like with how Middlesbrough like to go forward and how Fulham like to play, this will be 2 contrasting styles going up against each other. So who will come out on top of this one? I've got a gut feeling that maybe Middlesbrough to go ahead and snatch something, of course. Fulham are that side who is either really hot or really cold. There's no in between normally with Fulham. So for this one, I'm going to go for a 2-1 home victory for Middlesbrough. Although Fulham could surprise us, FIFA saying it'll be 1-0 Middlesbrough. Then our next game does see Michael Preston North End go up against Millwall. And I'm not going to lie, I could see this game going quite a few ways, to be completely honest. Of course, Preston and Millwall both did lose their last game in the Championship. For Preston, that did put an end to what was a pretty good run actually for us to go ahead. You know, we're not too far away from the playoffs at the moment, and these are sort of the games which Preston need to be going ahead and turning into 3 points if we are going to be up around there at the end of the season. But it's not going to be easy by any stretch of the imagination. Millwall have actually a very good home record so far this season, and with a direct style they like to play with, that could cause our defence to have a couple of issues in this one. I'm not going to lie about that, especially from defending set pieces where we were looking quite weak against Middlesbrough. Millwall could look to expose Preston in those areas, but saying that as well, Preston lately going forward have been looking like a much improved side than we were a couple of weeks ago. So for this one, I'm going to go ahead and predict it to finish as a 1-1 draw. It wouldn't really surprise me. I think we drew with Millwall when we did play with them at Deepdale earlier in the season, and I get the impression this game could be heading in a similar direction. So I'll say 1-1, and FIFA is also saying a 1-1 draw. And our last game to go ahead and predict is the evening kickoff on Saturday, and that sees Nottingham Forest go up against Aston Villa. So of course this will be Aitor Karanka's first game in charge of Nottingham Forest. I'm interested to see what the outcome of this game could actually go ahead and be. You know, I'm mixed. You know, normally a new manager coming into a new club does tend to get that instant reaction out of them, but it's not going to be easy, of course, coming up against this Aston Villa side who have been very on and off so far this season. You know, it wasn't too long ago since we were seeing the majority of Villa fans saying that they want Steve Bruce sacked, and now they seem to have turned a corner in the Championship. Their last performance actually saw them go ahead and beat high-flying Bristol City by 5-0, so they can't be taken easily, but they do have that tendency, Aston Villa, to when things really start to get good for them, then they get brought back down to earth. So that could be one of those games in this game here today, but I get the impression Karanka will get a reaction out of these Forest players. Will it be enough to win the game though? I'm not so sure. I'm going to go ahead and predict this game to go ahead and finish as a 1-1 draw, whereas FIFA's saying it'll be a 0-0. So there you guys have it. That will wrap it up for this episode of my Championship score predictions. So do you guys agree with my score predictions this week? Let me know down below. So if you guys did go on to enjoy the video, make sure you do leave a like. It is always massively appreciated. As well as that, make sure you do subscribe for some regular Championship content. But apart from that guys, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you all in the next one.